Welcome to the Jaybe show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. We are live. Yes, today is December 15th, 2024. You are watching. Yes, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. This helps us out very much. Thank you very much for that. And so good to see all of you here joining me today from YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, and Rockfin. So welcome back to all of you. Also, if you guys have not already, you guys can join our mailing list at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever we go live, like you see right here. So thank you very much for that. Also, if you guys would like to, you can reach out to us through our email at revolutionaryblackout@outlook.com. So if you guys have any stories that you'd like to share or any encouraging words, you guys have that there as well. So thank you very much for that. So good to see you. Look, there is a lot to talk about today. I have two segments that I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to do the first segment that's not on the thumbnail. I'm going to do that first. And then the primary story that we're going to talk about on the thumbnail is what we're going to be doing afterwards, because I think that's going to take up the bulk of the time for this segment, but I think it's very important to get into. But with that being said, I just want to say hello to all of you. Now, we may get an interruption. I'm not sure if we will. We may get an interruption from Sabby. She's doing her mutual aid event as we speak in Boston. So if we have to cut away from that, I hope you forgive me. But also, I think it's important that we talk about the mutual aid that we do on the ground with RBN. So, of course, you have Kansas City, Detroit, Boston, and Orlando. And so that's what we try to do. And so if she cuts in, then I hope that, actually, let me send her the link just in case. Because if she's wants to cut in, then that's fine. But I want to make sure that also gets added in just in case. I'm not sure if she's watching at all, but I haven't checked the chat to see if she is. But I'm going to send the link anyway, just in case, because she wants to cut in, then she can just cut in. Let me see. Link. And then I will text it to her. Okay. All right. Send it to her so that she has the direct link. So thank you very much for allowing me to be able to do that. So with that being said, I want to say hello to everybody that's in the chat. So good to see all of you here. We're going to start off with Palvionator. Says, yes, peace and solidarity and free Palestine. I'm guessing it is. I think it is. Or PSL, BSY. I'm not sure if that is. But thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Zoe coming in saying, ahoy mateys. Ahoy mateys to you, Zoe, as well. G. Gibson says, greetings. Good to see you as well. Terry Connolly coming in saying, greetings, comrades. Nice to have you. We have Lauren saying, howdy, y'all. Good to see Lauren L. in the chat. We have Jay coming in saying, JB, I appreciate all you do, man. Thank you. Thank you very much. I try to do what I can. And I appreciate all of you guys for continuing to keep me, honest and smart and educating me. You guys are just an amazing group of people who come in, day out to hear me and my annoying little voice, but thank you so very much. Social Emotional Learning with Dr. Donnie says, hey, JB, I tried to see if I can give you a kidney, but they rejected me because I have a history of kidney problems. Yeah, I appreciate it, though. That's very kind of you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it depends. Because, for instance, like people who have like diabetes, they can't donate a kidney. They just can't. And certain people with certain conditions, they're unable to. But hopefully, there will be other people who will do that. And please do not apologize. No need to apologize. The thing is like, number one, you wanted to help, which is very kind of you. So to me, the desire to help is just as good as actually doing the act of helping and putting forth the effort. So thank you very much for that. But yeah, so to be honest with you, like for instance, my mom wanted to see, but she has a condition where she's unable to, and she would get rejected immediately. So she can't. So, it's not, and it's not for everybody to be able to donate. Some people, even though physically they can, mentally and emotionally, they're probably just not in the right space to do so. And that's okay too, because some people just do not have the bandwidth to give a part of their bodies to somebody like that. You also have to have a mental evaluation for that too. And so some people, even though physically they can, it's like here and here, are they ready for such a thing? You know what I'm saying? This is why when I tell people, if they do want to, get screening to see if they can be a kidney donor to me, this is why I say, give it deep thought. Think about it emotionally, mentally, things like that. For instance, if you're a young person, a young lady or a young person with a uterus, and you think that you might want to have kids, maybe pause and give it some thought. I'm just being real. You could be at this moment saying, I don't want kids. You could be 18, 19, 20 years old, be like, I don't want kids. But could that change in 10 to 15 years? You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to stop you. And I actually, if you want to, cool. But you know yourself better than I do. So just think it over. And that's a really deep personal decision. So, but yes, thank you so very much for that as well. Ellen says, hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Joe Anthony says, solidarity. Bad Wolf, I haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you. I said, I came and I saw, I love seeing my comrades. Bad Wolf, I have not seen you in a while. If I could, I'd give you a hug, Bad Wolf. Nice to have you back. All right. Leroy, my homie. So good to, you know what? Every single time I see Leroy looks like a young W.E.B. Du Bois. I'm sorry, but he does. Like, you look like W.E.B. Du Bois in my mind, right? Just, I can see you in a suit, all suited up, all dripped out. DJ Leader says, Super Sunday to all in the RBN fam. Good to see you, DJ Leader. I am loving my peeps here. So good to see all of y'all. Edward says, thank you, JB. You make a difference supporting the RBN org. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it. That means a lot. It means a lot to me because I'm trying to do what I can when I can. It's just, we go through stuff and everybody's going through something. Part of it is because of the system. Some of it is because, we just got life be lifing. You know what I'm saying? And so, we do what we can when we can. But I think the goal is to do what you can. The goal is in the effort, right? Once you pour forth that effort, at least something good comes out of it, right? I don't want to get on my soapbox, but you know what I mean, right? All right. Jay says, my roommate was expecting a kidney around 6 years, got called last week by MedStar, and he thought it was a scam. He did not get it. Oh no. Yeah. See, here's the thing. Whoever you go through, make sure that you have their number saved in your phone. And then when they call, they'll call at any time. It could be 4 a.m. So if once I get approved to be on the kidney transplant list, I'm gonna hate this, but I'm gonna have to leave my ringer on, especially at night, so that if I get that 3 a.m. call, that 4 a.m. call, I'll wake up. Hopefully I'll wake up. Jeez. But I'm giving family members that number too. But hopefully they'll give me a call. And then next thing you know, they're like, we have a kidney. But here's the thing. It's kind of interesting. Kidneys are also graded. It sounds weird, but their kidneys are graded, because the kidney could be coming from somebody who has maybe not so great medical history, but their kidneys are still kind of healthy. But they're higher up in age, maybe 50, 55, things like that. And it's like, do you really want that kidney? Because it's you don't know the actual details. They have a grading system. I think it's KPR, something like that. But it's a grading system. And based on that grading system, you can say yes if you want it, or no if they'll move on to the next person to give it. And so, it depends on that too. It's something that a lot of people don't know about. And so, yeah, as far as, if you're on the kidney transplant list, make sure to save that number so that when that number calls, you answer. And, so then you can either say yes or no. And then if it's yes, then it's like, well, you got 3 hours to get to this hospital. And you haul ass and get to that hospital. You know what's really interesting though about all this? If you're let's say you flew out, let's say I take a trip to Chicago, right? I'm in Chicago. I'm visiting Kit from Heartlands Media. We're about to have some deep dish pizza, but then I'm on the list and they call me, bring Jaybe, we have a kidney for you. And I'm like, what number is it? And then they're like, the number that I'm supposed to have, that I would like to have. I'm like, okay, I'm on my way. Fax me a letter so that I can share it with the airline so that they let me on the flight. They will fax you a letter and they will send it to you. You get that letter. You go straight to the airport. You give that letter to the airport and they say, okay, we have to let you on this flight. And then they let you on the flight and then you get to go home because it has to be within a 3-hour period. Chicago's a 3-hour flight, at least around that. So then by the time you get there and you race your ass because I wouldn't have to come here to Orlando, I have to go to Tampa. But you get to go there and then you get sent to the hospital. They put you in a gurney, they make sure they get you prepped like that. It's super fast. It's crazy how efficient they are when it comes to this stuff. But anyways, ND Left coming in saying Jaybe to 5K. Yeah, that's on my channel. Thank you so very much, ND Left. ND Left does great work. They are also an independent media outlet that also covers a lot of news. So if you guys have not already, you guys can go ahead and give them a follow. Just click on just click and then go ahead and hit subscribe. Okay. Good to see you, Indy Left. Thank you so much. Seb Griffin says, good morning, fellow human beings. Good to see you, Seb Griffins. Oh, yeah, Indy Media Award honoree. Thank you so very much. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I don't win anything really, but my group friends tried to call me Lee Gavar. I told them if you said I look like a young W.E.B. Du Bois, and they were laughing so hard. Nice. And the Ringwall says the highest sign of bandwidth is doubt. Yup. Gar says they seem to me people undeserving are receiving organs because they're young. I'm sorry, what? People undeserving are receiving organs because they're young. What do you mean by that? I mean, they don't take care or respect the second chance given. That's not up for us to judge. if people are, getting an organ, especially, and doctors monitor your compliance before they give you an organ. And if you're seen to be compliant, that means that lets them know that, yeah, this person's going to take care of themselves. I'm not sure about what you mean, but I've actually spoken to patients who lost their organ that was donated to them because they couldn't afford the immunosuppressive medication that was given to them because of the system that we live in. So it's not that they don't take care, it's that the system screws them over and they can't get the organ or keep the organ that's donated to them. It's not up to me to judge whether they are undeserving or deserving. I don't know what that's about, but okay. Fallon Trotsky says, do you think you might get some special abilities from a new kidney, like Sutton B being able to play a saxophone? That'd be cool. That would be cool. Alan coming in saying, good to see you. Waves and love. Thank you so very much. All right. Cowboy Kitty says, perplex Buffont. I love it. Zoya coming in saying, healthcare isn't connected to morality. It's a right. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so very much. And Felon Trotsky says, geez, that's insanity. Yeah. Thank you so very much. Now, we are going to get into the stories today. Our first story that we're going to talk about, I don't have a thumbnail for it, but we're going to be talking about a Pew Research article that just came out. And this Pew Research article is essentially about workers. So I want to share this because if Pew Research had came to me, I would have been like, duh. But, they have to do the research. And so, sometimes they have to do the research like that. And, I get it because, you have to share the data. But, a lot of us are essentially at a point right now where we're just like, I don't even know about Americans feeling good about their jobs, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I mean, the jobless rate, the unemployment numbers are low, but the unemployment numbers are typically, if you look at the parameters for unemployment numbers are basically people who have been unemployed for, I think it's 6 months or longer, but then they're taken off the rolls, I think, after a year. So it doesn't talk about the people who are chronically unemployed for longer, I think, than 6 months to a year or longer. And so because they're not being recorded, then I think the jobless numbers are actually higher than what they're being recorded. Whether it's Democrat or Republican administration, it doesn't matter. And so I think there are more people that are unemployed than it's being recorded. But also, just because the employment numbers are low, it doesn't account for how many people have multiple jobs. So you could have, a fifth or sixth amount of people, it could be 10 to 15% of people who have multiple jobs. And so how many, hundreds of thousands of jobs are being occupied, by a certain set of people. So it could be, you could have, 30,000 jobs and it's being, worked by 15,000 people, so it just, a lot of times they don't take into consideration that. But one of the things that I want to share is this research. So here's out of Pew Research Center. They came out with an article that says most Americans feel good about their job security, but not their pay. It says younger and lower income workers are among the least satisfied with their jobs. Majority say it would be hard to find the kind of job they want if they were looking today. So this is by Luana Lynn, Julian Horowitz, and Richard Fry. So let's take a look at this article. It says, amid low unemployment nationwide, U.S. workers are feeling good about their level of job security, and relatively few expect to look for a new job in the coming months, according to a new Pew Research Center survey. At the same time, only half of workers say that they're extremely or very satisfied with their job overall, and much smaller share are highly satisfied with their pay, 30%, down from 34% last year. The survey, conducted on October 7th to 13th among 5,273 employed U.S. adults, explores how workers see various aspects of their jobs, including how they assess the importance of certain skills and their own opportunities for further training. Says key findings, says white and older workers are among the most satisfied with their job overall. Well, this is not surprising, seeing that older workers, especially ones who have been in their jobs for a longer period of time, they actually don't have to worry about that because the jobs they had kept up better with inflation back then. And so they were able to keep up with inflation up to today. So yeah. And, I'll be real, they're white, so of course they're going to have a better chance at, their job keeping up with inflation. So more satisfaction is going to happen among them. So 55% of white workers say they are extremely or very satisfied, compared to 44% of Hispanic workers, 43% of Black workers, and 42% of Asian workers. So these are workers, white and older workers. So it says among workers ages 65 and older, 2/3 say they are highly satisfied with their job. Just 43% of workers ages 18 to 29 say the same. Workers with middle and upper family incomes are more likely than those with lower incomes to express high levels of job satisfaction. Well, this is a big duh, because of course, if they're already making good money, they're already satisfied because their needs are being met. But when it comes to people who are on the lower rungs of the economic hierarchy in this country, then of course we're going to be dissatisfied because we are unable to keep up with living expenses, housing costs, medical costs, transportation, making sure our utilities are paid. So of course, this table says job satisfaction is highest among white and older workers. So percentages of workers who are blank with their job overall. So extremely satisfied. So among all employees is 50% are extremely satisfied, 38% is somewhat satisfied, and then not too satisfied or all satisfied is 12%. But it switches when you break it down by race. And see, this is one of the reasons why we here talk about race and class being intertwined, because once you you can go by this, you can say, well, class aspect, but class and race are intertwined. So you actually seeing it here and seeing who has the lowest numbers. Well, look at that. Black and Asian are really neck and neck for the most part. And then even when it comes to age, 18 to 29 are least satisfied, because if you look at how it has not, wages have not kept up with inflation. So of course, the 18 to 29-year-olds are actually going to fare worse than people who are above the age of 65, because a lot of people who are above the age of 65, they have retirements, they have pensions, they have 401ks. And so they're able to keep up better with job satisfaction. They have a lot of, equity under their belt. A lot of them are homeowners, which means that they had a home equity that has built up over the years because they were able to buy a home. And so they have that. They have, they're established. They have all the things that they pretty much need. Their kids are adults for the most part. So they do not have to worry about providing for families. They don't have to worry about providing for kids. They have well-established credit. That credit is well-established, especially since you now have a house that's completely paid off. You have a house that's completely paid off. You probably have had, credit cards in the past, and you probably paid those off in the past. And so therefore that also contributes to that. So you're able to go to that Lincoln dealership and get 0% APR, or 0% down for your car, because you don't have to put any money down. You just pay, for your car monthly payments. And then on top of that, you don't have to pay as much because you're not as much of a risk. So it's a lot that variables that go into this, but they all have that satisfaction there. This is interesting. It says estimates for Asian adults are representative of English speakers only. That's interesting asterisk that they put there. It says among 29% of workers who are not to or not at all satisfied with their pay, the top reason given is that their wages haven't kept up with increases in cost of living. It says large shares also say their pay is too low for the quality, 71%, or amount, 70% of work they do. 54% say a major reason they're dissatisfied is that they don't earn enough to pay their bills. Lower income workers who are dissatisfied with their pay are far more likely than those with middle and upper incomes to cite the fact that they don't earn enough to pay their bills, 69% versus 51% and 30% respectively. It says large minorities of workers across all family income levels say their pay hasn't kept up with the cost of living increases. So this says falling behind cost of living increases is the top reason for workers' dissatisfaction with pay. Their pay has not kept up with the increases in the cost of living. That's 80%. So this makes a lot of sense. How, you could be satisfied with the job that you have, but if the pay is not paying enough, if the math ain't mathing, well, I guess then you're not going to be satisfied with that. And you know what's funny about that? Because people don't want to go homeless, they're going to be more willing to go with a job that they don't like, which also is going to stress them out. But then the likelihood of them having that dissatisfaction and leaving is also going to be higher, because you need to survive. What are you going to choose? A job that I enjoy, but I may end up homeless, or a job that I hate, but I'll still have my roof over my head, clothes on my back, food in my mouth, and utilities? As a communist, I say that we should not have to choose between either. But unfortunately, in a capitalist system, that is what it is. You have to work in a position that you don't like for people that essentially don't give a shit about you. And so then you end up having to do work. Or here's the thing. Part of doing that job is the pay, which makes you unsatisfied, because even if it's enough, you're still not making what you should for the work that you're doing. Perfect example. I don't know exactly the starting pay for a dialysis tech at the dialysis center that I go to, but I'm willing to bet that the starting pay for a dialysis tech at the dialysis center I go to is nowhere near where it should be in this state, because the turnover is too high. Too high for my taste. And the thing is like when you're a dialysis tech or a dialysis nurse, you're literally holding people's lives in your hand day in, day out. And so they should be paid well, not just a living wage, but a thriving wage, because for the job that they're doing. And yet, it's not that way. And so, even if you're just making it, you're not being paid enough for the quality of the work that you're doing, which is sustaining the life of people on a daily basis. Now, continuing. Actually, you know what? Let's stick with this for a second. Among the 29% of workers who are not at all satisfied with their pay, the top reason given that their wages haven't kept up with increase in cost of living. Let me say something really quick. For those of you who are new to RBN, welcome. Nice to have you. One of the questions I have is, what is the federal minimum wage right now in the year of our Lord and Savior Thor, 2024? Go ahead and Google it real quick. I'll wait. Yeah, $7.25 an hour. Okay. Some of you may say, well, that's the federal minimum wage. That's not the state minimum wage. State minimum wage is typically higher than the federal minimum wage, of course. But how many states in our country are at equal to the federal minimum wage and not higher? Go ahead and Google that. $20 states. Yes, 20 states. Okay. So that means almost half the country has a minimum wage that is starvation wages. Even in some of the states that have the highest minimum wage, that's still a starvation wage. You have states like California that I think are $15 an hour at a state minimum wage. But it takes a lot more than $15 an hour just to be able to live. Want to know how I know? I'll show you. So here is the National Low Income Housing Out of Reach map. They put this out every single year. This is the one for 2024. Here's California, one of the most expensive states to live in. How much do you need to make to afford a 2-bedroom apartment? It is the most expensive state. You need to make $47.38 an hour in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in California. Now, I want to ask you a question when it comes to the $47.28 an hour, right? How much is minimum wage in California? Well, let's take a look. Okay, so I was wrong. $16 an hour. I was off by $1. $16 an hour, right? So essentially, if minimum wage is $16 an hour, how many times that is that you need to make in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment? 16, 32, 48. So you need to make 3 times that of minimum wage in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. With that being said, most Californians aren't making $48 an hour. Some may be making 25, maybe 30, but that's still nowhere near where it needs to be. I live in Florida. Florida is the 10th most expensive state in the United States to live in. Yes, a red state. Yes, a southern state. You need to make $35 an hour in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in Florida. So when you look at states like this, when you look at states like California, when you look at states like Florida, right? $35.24 an hour. I think we just got to $13 an hour past September in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. You need almost 3 times the amount of minimum wage in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in Florida. Some of y'all in Texas, y'all need to make $19.91 an hour. But what is, let me ask, what is, hang on, this thing is not doing what I want. Okay. Let's go ahead and look. What is the minimum wage in Texas? Texas is, $7.25 an hour. Interesting. So of course, then workers are not satisfied with pay. No duh. And so when we talk about the issue of pay disparity, and people say, well, if you even Donald Trump said this, well, if you increase the pay, then that's going to make prices go up. Donnie, prices have been going up the entire time. What are you talking about? They've been going up for a long ass time while pay has stayed stagnant. The federal minimum wage has been $7.25 an hour since 2009. And here in Texas, one of the largest, most populous states in the union, and you mean to tell me that they have not raised their minimum wage? They're still $7.25 an hour? So of course, yes, people are, suffering out there. I want to share something else as well before we get back to the study. Make sure I share this as well. I shared this on my channel. Was it share on my channel or did I share here? I can't remember. I'm getting old. Sorry. But let me share this as well. Thank you to Unusual Whales for this. It says 22% of renters are spending all their income directly on rent, while another 20% are working a second job to afford it per Redfin. Let's take a look at this. Let's examine this graph, right? Because I want to channel my inner Sabby Sabs. Let's examine the graph. Oop, that's not what I wanted. We can go here and then. Okay, I just want to make this nice and big so y'all can see. Okay. So it says, which of the following actions have you taken, if any, to help afford you pay your rent payments? The first one is all of my regular income goes directly to paying rent. This means that 100% of your paycheck goes to rent, not to food, not to the light bill, not to the phone, not to the internet that you need to live, right? Back then, we used to think internet was a luxury. It's not anymore, right? Not to your car payments, not to the maintenance, not to gas you got to put inside your car. not to daycare. If you got little kids you need to send off to daycare, right? Not to your healthcare costs. Hello, Luigi Mangiano. Not to the travel costs that you need. There's some of us that, look, I know what it's like to have to scrimp and scrape just for change to be able to get on the city bus to get to where you need to go. So people are suffering, and imagine 100% of your paycheck. Experts say that you're not supposed to spend more than a third of your paycheck on rent. Your monthly expenses for rent or mortgage are supposed to be 33% or less. You got people spending 100% of their checks. And then some people are having to get a second job just to help pay the rent. Not alone all the rent, the utilities, light bills, food, miscellaneous things. How many of y'all had to get that really cheap ass toilet paper because you couldn't afford anything else because toilet paper is going too high? You can't even get the good Charmin toilet paper no more. You got to get the Scott 1000 roll. You can't even get the big ones because the Scott 1000 roll has gone up too expensive. Even though Scott 1000 roll, when you try to wipe, your finger goes through, and then okay, that was a little too much information, but you see exactly what I'm talking about, right? You got to get the cheap. You got to get the cheapos. I hate cheap toilet paper. I hate the cheap, like super thin toilet paper. I hate it. Anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. But it's expensive out there, y'all. All right, so worked at a job I hated, 19%. Receive assistance from the government, 18%. Cash give from family. How many of y'all? Every single, like, there may be weekly, it could be every 2 weeks, it could be once a month, where you have to come hat in hand to your family or text message them or call them up. Can you send me a few dollars on Cash App? Can you Venmo me $15, $20 so I can go get groceries? You got $25 on PayPal? Day in, day out, some of you guys have to borrow money from your family and friends in order to be able to survive. Right? On a regular basis. Have previously lived with parents, family, friends to save money. Pulled money out of retirement funds early. Contributed less to retirement savings. Right? And then received assistance from nonprofit association. This could be from churches. This could be from different, types of NGOs that, not NGOs, but nonprofits that, are there to help people. But then, of course, they have certain stipulations before they can help you, right? Because I know what that's like too. And then, of course, stock investments, inheritance, and sold cryptocurrency investments, right? Says respondents could also choose a portion of my regular income goes directly to paying rent. 45% of respondents selected that option. But yeah, we know this is one of the issues, right? So this is why it is incumbent upon us to try to change the system as much as possible. Because we know how it is, the reality of living. And then when we try to get help, we'll try, our utmost to try to get whatever assistance that we can. But then there are barriers to that too. I'm going to share this as well. It's an animation, but I think it is valid because some of y'all know exactly what this is all about, how it is. Let me share this.
Hi, welcome to Low Income Housing. Can I have your pay stubs? Sure. I'm so sorry. You make too much to live here. Maybe try the luxury apartments. You might qualify over there. Hi, welcome to Luxury Apartments. Can I see your pay stubs? Before I give you that, really quick question. Why are they considered luxury? They look like every other apartment complex in the area. Good question. Nothing but the name, actually. We haven't updated anything in at least 10 years, but with having the name luxury in the apartment complex name, we don't have to accept Section 8 or any type of government funded assistance. Let me take a look at your pay stubs. So sorry. You don't make 3 times the amount of any of the rent, even the minimal. So we're not going to be able to help you. Have you tried buying a house? So the low income housing just told me that I make too much. How can I not make enough here? I don't understand that. I really don't think that I am in a position in my life to buy a house at this moment, especially because you're telling me I can't rent. So
remember what I said, that over 24% of people are saying that they have to spend their entire checks just to be able to pay rent. And now these apartments are saying you have to make 3 times the amount in order to be able to afford rent. 3 times. So let's do some math, shall we? What is the average amount of rent in, let's say, my city, Orlando? Let's take a look. So according to Rent Cafe, your average rent is $1,895 a month. Oh yeah, $1,895. Let's go here. Let's do the math because I want to be accurate. 1,895 times 3. You need to make $5,685 per month in order to be able to afford average rent in Orlando, where I live. So let's take that $556.85, divide that by 160, because there's 160 work hours if you work 40 hours a week in a month. So divided by 160, you need to make $35.53 an hour in order to be able to afford an apartment in Orlando at the average price of $1,895. There are professionals who have went and spent 4 years in college who don't even make this amount. Professionals. How many people are working at Disney that are working and making $17, $18 an hour? That are living in their cars, right? How many people are working at Universal making $17, $18 an hour that can barely afford rent? And so they said they want you to make 3 times the rent. They want you to make this every month, when most people don't make that. And so any wonder why everybody's like, well, we're not happy with the pay. You see why Brian Thompson got what he got? You see why people like Peter Thiel were looking nervous as hell when he was talking to Piers Morgan? What good is it if Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy had that office of governmental efficiency? What good is it to you who can't afford your rent? How is that going to help you? How is that really going to help you? What's the difference between Donald Trump and increasing tariffs? How is that linked to actually helping you and me? Here's a good question. How is deporting every single undocumented immigrant going to actually decrease prices for you? How is that actually going to help you? It is a systemic issue that cannot be solved with Band-Aids on gaping wounds. And that's the issue. They never solve the underlying issues of our problems. One of them that should be housing is a human right. We literally have over 6 million vacant homes in this country. And you mean to tell me that we can't house everybody? Hundreds, if not hundreds upon thousands of people, not just out in the street, but people who are in motels and hotels. People have to sleep on couches. People have to shack up with friends out of duress in order to be able to have a roof over their heads so that they don't die. I haven't even finished this video yet.
Especially because you're telling me I can't rent. So how can I buy? I can't afford a $3,000 rent, but I can afford a $400,000 loan for a house. I don't know. I don't know. The good thing is that's not my problem. Here you go. Hi, welcome to Buying a House. Do you have your pay stubs, your credit report, your firstborn, and a doppelganger? The lighting is very different in here from everywhere else I've been. Oh yeah, the lighting is very different. We do that on purpose in hopes that the lighting is so dim that you can't really read all the contract papers that you're signing. But let me look through your stuff and see what we got going on. Okay, so no, this is not going to work. You use your credit card to pay groceries. And yes, I know a lot of people are doing that because people can no longer afford groceries, but we cannot sell you a house. I'm so sorry. So can you tell me more about the builder? Like, are these homes well built? So basically the bones are great. It's concrete block, which is fantastic, but it's going to be super flat paint. So any scuff marks, you're never going to be able to clean them. If I'm being 100% honest, all of your doorknobs are going to fall off within the first year. And you're probably going to have to replace some of the appliances because even though it's a new house, we kind of got them in like a wholesale kind of thing with like a not so reputable appliance. Listen, you don't qualify anyway. So none of this matters. But I do have another option that I think might work for you. So there is a new bridge being built and we are selling tents for under the bridge if you're interested in that. At this point, I guess, yes, I'll take an application for a tent. I am happy to put you on that wait list. There's a wait list to live under a bridge. Are you kidding me right now?
So yeah, people are dissatisfied. And this is why we talk about mutual aid. Because everybody's like, what's the solution to something like this? We talk about it all the time. Savvy's literally doing it right now. She's providing mutual aid to her community. Some mutual aid is also being able to, help people with housing, forming housing tenant unions and tenant co-ops and things like that in order to be able to help your fellow neighbors to be able to live so that they don't end up out on the street. Or it's helping your unhoused neighbors however you can to be able to survive until they get housing. This is one of the things. You are the solution to your problem. Collectively, we are the solution to our own problems. The issue is we got to get the system out of the way and create a new one. But we start small. You get together with your friends. You figure out, okay, well, we can actually help out our neighbors who are unhoused in this area by doing these little things. Like set up to help 10 people. Just 10, right? Get some toiletries for 10 unhoused people. Start small, right? Raise money for how much does it cost to get 10 regular sized tubes of toothpaste, 10 bars of deodorant. How much does it cost to get, if you can raise that much, you can, how much does it cost to get 10 tents, 10 sleeping bags? Do what you can at that level. See how much it costs. Raise the money. Y'all got Cash Apps, y'all got Venmos, y'all got PayPals, and just raise it. And then help those people out. Then once you guys can do 10, then do 10 more, right? If you guys can grow that, then grow that from 10 to 15 or 15 to 20. Or if you know somebody that needs help, and you have a certain skill that can help out your neighbors so that they don't have to spend that extra money, can you donate your time? Can you donate your skills? Can you donate your energy? Black Panthers did it. They had free plumbing programs. The key is that you know that you're suffering. You know that your neighbors are suffering. Cross-pollinate your skills and your time and your energy in order to do for them, and then it reciprocates, comes back to you. Because the system's not going to do it for you. Because they need you to be behind the 8 ball so that you will allow yourself to be exploited so that you don't end up like the homeless people outdoors. Damn that. No, we're going to build dual power and have a system that actually is egalitarian for all of us. I'm not going to bore you guys with the details, but this is why doing mutual aid and building dual power is the most best good that we can do for our neighbors. And so this is why I implore you to do more for ourselves. So if we can help out our fellow neighbors, look, and some people who watch us got some coins. Is there any way that you can help? Start off with a small group in a city and help them out however you can. So that they can have the basic necessities. We provided 100 toiletry care packages in RB in Orlando. There's 50 families right now that are getting toys, being fed and given, supplies, food right now in Boston with Savvy right now. How many bottles of water, diapers, clothes, pizza that was given away by Rome? We can do something. You have the power to do it. I have the power to do it. It just takes that little oomph. So yeah. But thank you very much. Go ahead and give a like to the stream, and then we'll be getting through this and getting to our primary story in just a second. So let me go to the chats. Let's go to the rock. Go there first, and then we shall go over to, I'm going to check for Rumble rants too. Actually, let me check for Rumble rants right now before I do that, because I do not want to miss any Rumble rants from anybody. Because I know we get those from time to time. Okay, looks like we're good on the Rumble side. Thank you very much to everybody that's watching. All right, so let's go to the Rockfin chat, and then we'll go into the general chat here. All right, so thank you, Roger Meadows. He says, you still haven't answered my question. What will Santa Claus segment be available? I haven't clipped it. Have to see about getting Aaron to clip it, because you know, she's volunteer now, and her time is, you know, less for RBN. So that's the only thing. Sorry about that, Roger. It says, what's the best way to send money to content creators? I stopped with Patreon because Apple takes a bite. I don't use PayPal. YouTube takes too much from creators. Who takes the least from creators? The only other thing I can think of is possibly through Venmo, not Venmo. Yeah, sorry. You're gonna have to choose between PayPal, YouTube, or Patreon. And that's the capitalist system, because they're all gonna take a bite. It doesn't matter. Like, unless you want to do Cash App, but there's no specific designated Cash App to RBN as a whole. Now, if you want to do it to individuals, I'm not sure about Nick or Savvy. I know Rome's is $Tour for the Poor. So if you want to give money directly to Rome, you can go $Tour for the Poor, right? If you want to give money directly to me, it would be $James Fauntleroy. But that's the only thing I can think of, like, without actually having to pay money like that. That's the only thing unfortunately, that's how the system works, DB. I'm sorry. But thank you so very much for asking that question. Roger Meadows, thank you very much for the tip. He says, a right to a living wage CBI amendment where 15% of the minimum wage, working 30 hours a week, full-time, 52 weeks a year, be enough to cover fair market rent for one-bedroom apartment using the most expensive jurisdiction of the state as the starting point. Tax subsidies extend to mom and pop shops, franchise owners, small and medium-sized businesses, and workers to start their own worker cooperatives to cover 85 to 100% of the labor costs, which will decrease as their business grows over time. The wage will automatically and dynamically go up once their fair market rent goes up statewide without government intervention needed. This is not a new idea, seeing as we have real proof that this works, as done with our formerly incarcerated, where the government will tax rebates to companies to hire formerly incarcerated individuals, where the government will pay 80% of their paychecks and the company owner paying the 20% difference. Citizen ballot initiatives for a public bank to raise revenue to pay for infrastructure. A citizen ballot initiative to make the four main infrastructure power, water, transportation. You got to do a show on broadband, Jaybe. The demand is coming with remote work as people are leaving the cities. Now that you have a public bank, run another citizen ballot initiative amendment for a government jobs guarantee and make those services free at the point of service. since the public bank will already be used to pay for it by marking up your tax deposits. So now you have to pay. So now you have a paycheck to comfortably pay for rent with all utilities already taken care of. Mixed income apartments where 20% of the units will be filled by those whose yearly net income is minus 25,000, 20%. 25 to 50,000 is 20%. 50,000 to 100,000 is 20%, and 100 to 150,000. And thank you very much for that. Happy Sunday back to you, Anna Mayers. Thank you so much. Roger continues. He says, plus the rent will be charged will be 20% of tenants' income. I like that. 20% of our income being charged instead of more than that. I can definitely ride with that. Of course, it'll all get more into weeds with 2 or 3 bedroom apartments because of the different incomes brackets within that apartment. Apartments will be equipped with all the amenities like a real gym, community co-op garden, veggies, herbs, legumes, fruits, and on a vine, pool, open space to practice yoga, qigong, etc., and utilities. Utilities like high-speed broadband, power, HVAC would be all free at the point of service. It will also include the building of social safety services, health clinics, dialysis centers because of a citizen ballot initiative amendment that made these things so as to being subsidized by a public bank. Tax write-offs will be available for higher income people to occupy as well. When the professional managerial class are in the same space as working class, then those who must live off the fixed income provided by government. Professional managerial class will start humanizing them. 75% of municipalities' residential apartments must be mixed income, especially in cities there are more renters than homeowners. Thank you very much for that. See, this is also a thing that a lot of people don't talk about, is some of the people who are more affluent, because they live with other affluent people, they do not see or humanize people who are lower income because to them it's like, well, duh, we made it, so you guys can't make it too. And it's like, no, we can't because the system is not built that way. But this is why the system needs to change, because if you were to be able to have mixed incomes like that, well, then it would actually humanize people. So then they wouldn't want to see their neighbors suffer. But this is why also building community and doing mutual aid is also so important. Thank you very much for the super chat. Roger Meadow says, Jay shows screenshot of California to show expensive California cities. Yeah, I don't have that. I tried to find that link. I thought I started. I don't know exactly where to find it. Hang on. I know. Because I don't want to spend too much time trying to look for that. But it says download report. I don't know if I want to download the report, but yeah. Fuck it. All right. Let me share. It's here. You just have to download the report, but it's okay. Let me share that. So this is what Roger was talking about. So the report, it says in California, the fair market rent for a 2-bedroom apartment is $2,464. In order to afford this level of rent and utilities without paying more than 30% of your income on housing, a household must earn $8,212 monthly or $98,545 annually. Assuming a 40-hour work week, 52 weeks a year, this level of income translates to an hourly wage of $47.38 an hour. So the most expensive areas are Santa Cruz, Watsonville, San Francisco, San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, Santa Maria, Santa Barbara, and Salinas. These are some of the most expensive areas in California. And so this is even more detailed breakdown that they have here as well. So I'm going to share the Out of Reach link with you guys so that you all have it. And you can share this with your family, share this with your friends, share it with everybody to let people know that this is what this is what people are going through, especially in this country. Okay, hang on. Okay, thank you, Roger. Let me star this for bookmarks. Okay, thank you so much, Roger. I got it. But I just showed everybody the screenshot, not screenshot, but the PDF for the areas in California. So that being said, let me check to see any other chats, and then we shall go. Indy says, worth at a job I hate it is way too low. Yeah. And a lot of times when they do these these surveys, it's not enough people, because I think that those numbers will be much higher. Let me see. So M says, minimum wage in California, it's a joke. Nobody can afford even one room in an apartment working full time. Yeah, talk to people in New York too, because they're in the same position. Zoya says, In-N-Out was paying $14 an hour decades ago. Jasmine says, many lawyers don't even make the money you need to live. Yeah, Sabby actually talked about this. She says she has a friend that's a lawyer that can't even afford a regular apartment. Hello K says, sadly, also $7.25 an hour in Pennsylvania. That's crazy. Like, you should be able to make more than that in Pennsylvania. Dabby Dab says, why would they? Texas is a right to work for peanut state. Sam, as I am, says, catching up. Okay, get this, young people. When I was making more than today's federal minimum wage as an apprentice in the Operating Engineers Union in Denver, and ready for it, 1979. You are making more than that in 79. Makes me wonder how much they're getting paid now. Yeah. Boycott says, don't forget taxes. Absolutely. Yeah. You got to pay taxes too. Like, we may not have to pay as many in taxes, like payroll tax and stuff like that, but we also got to pay tax when it comes to, our groceries. We got to pay tax when it comes to, just buying, regular stuff. I mean, we have to pay taxes and all that. Anna Ringwald says the economy crashes regularly every 4 to 7 years, yet most folks aren't prepared for a small emergency. Yeah, most Americans can't afford a $400 emergency or less. Like, hell, I can't afford a $400 emergency. I can't afford a $50 emergency. What the hell are you talking about? Like, $50 to me is a lot. Just because I'm on YouTube don't mean that I actually have it. And let's be real. Look, we don't make that much money here on RBN. Split that money 4 ways. Especially, we ain't making that much money. And so, and my personal channel is demonetized. So y'all start to see how it all, gets together, makes sense. Zoya says exchange services in your community, haircuts, manicures, clothing exchange, babysitting, plumbing, tutoring, etc. Everything grows from there. Community is extended. Family can solve anything. This is the point. Thank you very much, Zoya. Appreciate it. And I'll leave this one with Jacqueline. Cheap toilet paper is a pain in the arse. Oh, cheap toilet paper definitely is. So let's get into the next and most important segment that I wanted to get into. We're going to get into it, folks. Domestic terrorism on the United States. I want to share this with you guys because this is deeply important. I don't know where you guys have been, but as for me, this event happened when before I was 1 year old. In Philadelphia in 1985, the United States did something that some people would think never happened. The United States did to a Black household what Israel is doing to Gaza right now. They bombed them. It's not conjecture. It's not hyperbole. The Philadelphia Police Department bombed the neighborhood in West Philly. It was called the Move bombing, and it happened. One of the things that I did was I wanted to ask somebody who lived close to the area at the time about the Move bombing and what they remember. One of those people that remembers is my mother. Let me share this so that we can get the explanation of what she remembers about the Move bombing. So here's me asking my mom this morning. Hopefully you guys can hear. All right, so tell me what you remember.
One thing I remember is that 1 or 2 blocks were blown up completely. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure. I'm not positive. But I know it was bad because the people who were there, children and all, were involved. And from what I understand, back then I think they dropped a bomb in there. Mm-hmm. Just because the people wouldn't move. Or I can't say exactly. It's been a long time.
Yes, almost 40 years. Yeah.
And what they rebuilt was just, what I understand, was worse. When they rebuilt it, it didn't turn out to us.
So was it very close to Aunt Normie and Arlo and all that? Because it said
Philly.
Pretty big, yeah.
I don't really know where exactly. If you probably look it up on going to the archives.
Yeah, I'm doing that for the show, but I was just trying to see what you remember for the most part, because we were just right across the bridge essentially. So
yeah, that's been a long time. There's a lot I don't remember about it. Yeah. I just remember when it happened and how it came about. Mm-hmm. Because people didn't want to move. Mm-hmm. They wanted to get them out the neighborhood or something like that. And it was, they had like their own compound and stuff like that. And there was some the Move people were like, they were like any other traditional people who had followings, like in Oklahoma, different places like that. Oklahoma, all those different cults. A lot of cults was coming up back then. But they were just basically to themselves.
Got it.
And they were, I can't remember exactly what the circumstance was, but it was a bad thing that happened over there.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it.
So let's get the explanation. And if some of you are from the area, let me know in the chat what you remember. But here is, and I know some people are going to be kind of, breaking out in convulsions over me sharing this, but I think it's important. I'm going to share the Wikipedia first, and then we'll get deeper into details. But I want to share this. So this is the MOVE organization, right? So it says MOVE, pronounced like the word move, originally a Christian movement for life, is a communal organization that advocates for nature laws and natural living, founded in 1972 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, by John Africa. MOVE lived in a communal setting in West Philadelphia, abiding by philosophies of anarcho-primitivism. The group combined revolutionary ideologies similar to that of the Black Panthers with work for animal rights. You see where this is going, don't you? All right, let's continue. MOVE is particularly known for two major conflicts with the Philadelphia Police Department. In 1978, a standoff resulted in the death of police officer James J. Ramp and injuries to 16 officers and firefighters, as well as members of the MOVE organization. 9 members were convicted of killing the officer, and each received a prison sentence of 30 to 100 years. In 1985, another firefight ended with the police helicopter dropped 2 bombs on the roof of the MOVE compound, a townhouse located at 6221 Osage Avenue. The resulting fire killed some 6 MOVE members and 5 of their children and destroyed 65 houses in the neighborhood. The police bombing was strongly condemned. The MOVE survivors later filed a civil lawsuit in the city of Philadelphia, awarded $1.5 million in 1996 settlement. The other residents displaced by the destruction of the bombing filed a civil lawsuit against the city, and in 2005 were awarded $12.83 million in damages as a jury trial. So let's get the origin of MOVE to get who they were. So this is the group's name, MOVE. It's not an acronym. Its founder, John Africa, chose this name to say what they intended to do. Members intended to be active because they say everything that alive moves. If it didn't, it will be stagnant, dead. When members greeted each other, they said, "On the move." When the organization was founded in 1972, John Africa was functionally illiterate. He dictated his thoughts to John Galassi, a social worker from the University of Pennsylvania, and created what was called the Guidelines as a basis for his communal group. Africa and his mostly African-American followers wore their hair in dreadlocks as popularized by Rastafari. MOVE advocated a radical form of green politics and a return to hunter-gatherer society while still stating their opposition to science, medicine, and technology. Now, this part, I don't know exactly if that's true because, sometimes certain people who may be mildly knowledgeable about, certain things, they may say things like this, like for instance, I'm going to give an example. I grew up Jehovah's Witness. And so some people will say, well, you guys don't believe in medical technology. And it's like, yeah, that's not the case. They actually absolutely do believe in medical technology. And so with that being said, sometimes people will say things that they don't know the entire details about. So I do have my doubts about this. I would love to talk to, I think it's Michael Africa Jr. He's one of the surviving members. I would like to talk to him about it. But for the most part, that's what Wikipedia says. You have to take Wikipedia with a grain of salt. So I'm just going to put that out there. But yes, that's what it says here. It says members of MOVE identify as deeply religious and advocate for life. They believe that as all living things are dependent, their lives should be treated as equally important. They advocate for justice that is not always based within institutions. Sounds like me. It says MOVE members believe that for something to be just, it must be just for all living creatures. As John Africa had done, his followers changed their surnames to Africa to show reverence to what they regarded as their mother continent. In a 2018 article about the group, Ed Pilkington of The Guardian described their political views as a strange fusion of Black power and flower power. The group that formed in the early 1970s melded the revolutionary ideology of the Black Panthers with the nature and animal-loving communalism of the 1960s hippies. You might characterize them as Black liberationist eco-warriors. He noted that the group also functions as an animal rights advocacy organization. Pilkington quoted member Janine Africa, who wrote him from prison, saying, "We demonstrated against puppy mills, zoos, circuses, and any form of enslavement of animals. We demonstrated against 3 Mile Island and industrial pollution. We demonstrated against police brutality, and we did so uncompromisingly. Slavery never ended. It was just disguised." This kind of sounds like if you mixed the Black Panther Party and like the Green Party. That's what it kind of sounds like to me. Like they were like a mix of like Black Panthers and the Greens. You know? So how are they really a threat? Right? Like how are the Black Panthers a threat? You know what I'm saying? Because you're advocating for a system that leaves exploitation behind. And that's why they were considered a threat. So I just wanted to share that part because the MOVE bombing was horrific. I want to share some of, I don't want us to get a copyright claim for this, but I want to share this. I hope we, I don't want to take the risk, but there's a video that I want to share. I'll share just a little bit. Try to do like less than 30 seconds, but I hope that you guys get the gist of it here.
And nothing was going on. That's why we were surprised and shocked when hundreds of cops invaded our area trying to throw MOVE out of our home. And this was on Sunday, Mother's Day.
There is a small war underway on a street in Philadelphia tonight. It has been going on all day between hundreds of Philadelphia police and a bizarre back-to-nature group called MOVE.
Nothing happened all day, but that night, Gregor Sambour, the police commissioner, got on a loudspeaker and said, "Attention, MOVE, this is America. You have 15 minutes to come out." Well, obviously, we didn't come out because we knew they wanted to kill us. They didn't want to arrest us. They could have done that anytime. It was.
So that was from the documentary that was being done by Vice. What I'm going to do is I want to share something that happened let me see. From here as well. No, because we can get copyright for that. Unfortunately, you have to. There's a lot to navigate when it comes to copyright claims and stuff like that from on YouTube. So you have to be very careful. What was I going to share? As soon as I can get it to cooperate. Here it is. I want to share. This is from Democracy Now! I rather share this because this is more of a safer bet. But this is what's going on right now. And then I'll share some more details as well.
You can sign up for our daily news digest.
Okay.
Rest of the hour and a story Democracy Now! Has been following for decades, and again more intensively this past month, as Philadelphia's racist past resurfaced with the public disclosure that the bones of one or two African-American children killed by the city's police in 1985 are being used in an online Princeton University course called Real Bones: Adventures in Forensic Anthropology. These bones are being used without the knowledge of their families. This Thursday, May 13th, marks the 36th anniversary of the day the city of Philadelphia bombed its own citizens. On that day, in 1985, police surrounded...
Okay, so I'm going to keep it... I have to be careful with the imagery. But
the home of MOVE, a radical Black liberation organization that was defying orders to vacate. Police flooded the home with water, filled the house with tear gas, blasted the house with automatic weapons, all failing to dislodge the residents. Finally, police dropped a bomb on the house from a helicopter, killing 11 people, 6 adults and 5 children. The fire burned an entire city block to the ground, destroying over 60 homes. This is how the bombing was initially reported in Philadelphia on WCAU TV.
I've just been advised that we have new videotape of the episode that apparently ended, we think ended, the MOVE situation tonight, the dropping of an incendiary device. And let's take a careful look at this. 5:27 p.m. State Police helicopter drops it. There is the explosion. As you can see, a very dramatic explosion that occurs 30 seconds and really rips into the MOVE compound. There you see the bunker, which soon will go up in flames. And that was the explosion close up. Now, if there's anybody there, standing there, it's obvious they couldn't survive that explosion.
So that was May 13th, 1985. The police bombing came after an earlier standoff with MOVE in 1978, ended in a hail of police gunfire, leaving 1 police officer dead. MOVE members say they didn't fire a shot and that the officer was a victim of friendly fire. Former mayor of Philadelphia, Wilson Goode, concurred with that conclusion. Nevertheless, 9 of them were convicted of his murder and given life sentences. One of them, Debbie Africa, secretly gave birth in her cell just 5 weeks into her sentence. She managed to keep her son, Mike Africa Jr., with her for 3 days before alerting the guards. 7 of the MOVE 9 are now free. After serving 40 years. 2 died in prison. In a minute, we'll be joined by Mike Africa Jr. Last month, Philadelphia activist and writer Abdul Ali Muhammad learned the bones from 1 or 2 of the children killed by the police in that 1985 MOVE bombing, Trey and Delisha Africa, were being used by Princeton University and the University of Pennsylvania's Penn Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology in an online video course. In the video, Penn Museum curator Janet Monge handles the bones and calls them, quote, juicy, meaning that you can tell that they're of a recently deceased individual, she said.
I just want you to imagine if that was your family member. I want you to imagine somebody holding a piece of your family member to teach in a class that you never consented to have. Your family member was killed in a domestic terrorist attack, and now they're using your family member's remains to teach anthropology classes? So let me finish this little part and then we'll get into the press conference.
This comes as press accounts from 1985 say that Tree's remains, she was 14, were buried along with those of her half-sister Zanetta not long after the conclusion of an official inquiry. The remains of the other children, including Delisha, were reportedly handed over to a state senator who ran a funeral home and had them buried in unmarked graves. But if the bones of Tree and Delisha were buried in 1985, how did they end up in Janet Manja's hands 36 years later? Well, for more on these developments and what the children's family...
So that's the basis of what we're talking about here. So the Penn Museum, Penn Museum has possession of their remains. So I want to share the press conference from the family of what has happened. And did I think I accidentally, hang on. Okay. All right. Yeah, I have it here. Let me share this now. So this is a press conference that happened a few days ago.
Remember, as a city council representative for both the Penn Museum and the community that endured the terrible MOVE bombing, I am pleased to be here alongside Mike Africa Jr. and other members of the Africa family and our community. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest condolences to the Africa family. I cannot begin to imagine how deeply painful and re-traumatizing these past few weeks have been for all of you. When Mike initially called me in 2021 to tell me that the Penn Museum had remains from the MOVE bombing and that the museum had been using them for decades as teaching tools and research specimens without the family or community's knowledge, frankly, I thought it was too egregious to really be true. And when I learned that this actually happened, I was sickened, I was dumbfounded, and I was enraged. So it is absolutely unacceptable that we are back in the same situation 3 years later. The Penn Museum apologized for mishandling the MOVE remains in 2021, but talk is cheap. We need the Penn Museum to prove that they mean what they say through action and not just words. Instead, the Penn Museum continues to demonstrate a profound disrespect for Black life and Black death. When activists alerted museum leadership that the institution still possessed the remains of Delisha Africa over a year ago, the museum ignored them. There is absolutely no possible justification for the museum's barbaric treatment of a Black child's body, or their dismissive behavior towards those fighting to give Delisha some semblance of peace in death. We understand that the Penn Museum is a research institution and is used to slow, methodical studies that take years, but they need to realize that this is not an academic project. There is real trauma and pain here that needs to be taken seriously and addressed swiftly. The Africa family deserves closure, and they should have received that decades ago. The fact that we are still here holding our breath, waiting for even more remains to be discovered 3 years after this initially came to light is a slap in the face to the Africa family and our community at large. It is past time for the Penn Museum to work in a real and authentic way with the Africa family and community to quickly review the museum's entire inventory and return Delisha's remains and any other MOVE bombing remains in the museum's possession to their family or community so that they can finally be put to rest. And most importantly, the Penn Museum needs to learn a very important lesson. In life or in death, it is never okay to use Black bodies as trophies or to enrich an institution. Thank you so much.
And this is what happens all the time. And this is why, we talk about this. And I'm going to show a little something in a little bit, talking about how our bodies are constantly used as trophies, like trophy hunters in Africa. You guys know how you feel disgusted when you see somebody, who shot a elephant or who shot a giraffe or a lion, and they're posing with their guns next to the lion, the dead lion, the giraffe, or the elephant. Like, look what I did. I shot him down. My ancestors were also trophies. Yeah. When I share it with you, I hope you'll be as disgusted as I am. But this is the truth. This is the history of this country. But it continues to happen even down to this day. Let's listen to Mike Africa Jr.
On the move. First, I want to say thank you to Councilwoman Jaybe Gauthier for her steadfast position, for her tireless work, and for this support in this and many other instances for myself and my family. Thank you. I want to say that I don't really have a long speech. I don't have a lot to say, but the things that I want to say are very important to the MOVE organization. On May 13th, 1985, when the city of Philadelphia dropped a bomb on our house, killed 11 people, 5 of them were children, and then took our house from us through eminent domain, which we're still trying to fight to get back. They stole the remains of many people. It wasn't just Tree, Katricia Dotson, Tree Africa. It wasn't just Delisha. We have documentation that says, the wording is gruesome, but I'll give you some of it so that you understand the level of harm and trauma and pain and violence that the MOVE organization have experienced at the hands of law enforcement here in Philadelphia. Some of the bodies were said to not be identifiable because, according to these reports from some of the medical examiners, they say too many heads and torsos were missing. When we uncovered some of the evidence, we learned that a Penn student by the name of Jane Weiss did a dissertation. She wrote a dissertation about Delisha, Africa. And in that dissertation is an X-ray of 12-year-old Delisha Africa's head. In 2021, when the city and Penn said they were going to do all they could to get our family members' remains back to us, they did turn over some things. But I can tell you that as the great nephew of John Africa, who was one of the bodies that was buried without a head. When they returned the remains of John Africa, they did not return his head. So we are still being lied to and continuously harmed and outraged by the fact that our family members' remains have still not been turned over to us. I have the receipts, I have the documentation, and I have the bags that John Africa's remains were given to me in, and the bag is not big enough to fit his head. The documentation also shows that the remains of the people that are headless, it was not caused by a bomb. It was not caused by any of the 10,000 rounds of ammunition that was fired. It was not caused by the fire that burned over 2,000 degrees. It was caused by a person who actually used a saw to decapitate John Africa. Throughout my investigation of this entire situation since 2021, I've learned with my team that the Penn Museum is not only responsible for stealing the remains of Katricia and Alicia. We know that they're not being honest and forthright because our documentation indicates that there is a third set of remains from Katricia Dotson, Africa's sister, who was also 12 years old. And potentially, her remains have been studied and processed to the point where they possibly were ground down to dust. I read on the news and on social media that there was an activist named George Conscious Lee. He made a post talking about the bombing of Move. And in that post, in the comment section, a person, Muslim of all things, said, Move organization was bombed the way they were because they used their children as shields.
Do you see why we have solidarity with the Palestinians? You see why now? Because we know what it's like as a people. We know what it's like. We felt the brunt of U.S. terrorism on U.S. soil, being a stolen people, and then being reviled for who we are. Who gives you ground down the bones of the remains of somebody's loved one without their loved one's consent? That loved one that was murdered in a terrorist act. These bastards. But just forget it. Just forget. Look, that's in the past. Why do you guys need reparations? It's in the past. In May of 1985, I was 11 months old. I was 11 months old. It gets worse, y'all. Buckle up.
If anybody has ever met any member of the MOVE organization and seen us around our kids, you know we love our kids. And our parents loved us. They made mistakes. They did things that were wrong. They were trying to find a new way of doing things. But they loved us deeply. And this type of discrimination and defamation is why these things are allowed to happen and people get away with impunity. I mean, it is.
Mm-hmm.
That is the perfect word. It is criminal.
Mm-hmm.
That brings me to my next point. Part of the demands that the MOVE organization, Janet Africa, the mother of Delisha, the 12-year-old girl, she said, you can't give me any money. The pen can't give her anything. The only, except the work to help us free our last man standing, the last person that is in prison, the last member of our family, free Mumia Abu-Jamal.
You may have heard that name many times, Mumia Abu-Jamal. Mumia Abu-Jamal was also a journalist who was in support of MOVE. And a lot of times we focused, rightfully so, on people like Julian Assange. But who gets left out of the conversation is people like Mumia Abu-Jamal and Leonard Peltier. Leonard Peltier is a Native American that's being held in prison as a political prisoner. So you have a black man and a Native American man that are being held as political prisoners in these United States. And Mumia Abu-Jamal has been in prison longer than Julian Assange. And so I would like to see all the Assange activists to move over to Leonard Peltier as well as Mumia Abu-Jamal. Let's have that same energy. Let's go. We do not want Mumia to die in prison. We do not want Leonard to die in prison. They deserve to be free. So this is another thing that we don't talk about. And I'm going to be real, and I'm sorry this comes out wrong, but we seem to have more emphasis and activity for the white political prisoners than we do the black and brown ones. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep it a bean. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. When it comes to black political prisoners, how much emphasis is placed on them? How much emphasis was placed? And this happens tomorrow, by the way, the sentencing of the Uhuru 3, which is also another free speech issue. How many people in independent media are talking about the Uhuru 3 that are going to be facing sentencing tomorrow because they dare criticize the United States, but now they're being listed as unofficial Russian agents? So this is why we got to talk. This is why RBN exists, because people don't talk about our stories. And then guess what? People go, oh my God, I can't believe the United States is doing this to white people, because they did it to us first. And we tried to warn you, and then you guys didn't help us out. And so now, guess what? Now you're getting shafted because you guys didn't pay attention to the canary in the coal mine being us and Native Americans. So let's start paying attention to Leonard Peltier and Mumia Abu-Jamal. Let's start paying attention to them too. Let's start talking about the MOVE bombing. Everybody talks about what happened in 1920 or 1921 about Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But I hear less about what happened in 1985. I hear more about what happened over 100 years ago, but I don't hear as much what happened 40 years ago when I was alive. And I'm glad people are talking about Black Wall Street. I'm glad. But we also need to talk about what happened in Philly and in Rosewood and Ocoee and Seneca Village, which is in New York. You know what Seneca Village was? Seneca Village was actually a Black neighborhood in New York. You know what's there now? It's called Central Park. Why do we need reparations? Y'all funny with that, man. Y'all funny with that.
Right. And I'm calling for the remains to be turned over to us of my great uncle on behalf of the Africa family, on behalf of the Leapart family. John Africa has sisters and brothers that are still here, that are aging, and they want their brother home. The last thing I'll say is that the bombing of MOVE happened nearly 40 years ago. And there are still a lot of family members here of those people. I just spoke to Teresa Africa's sister yesterday. And standing to my right behind me, right here, is Yvonne. She is Delisha Africa's sister. And she is also devastated by what happened to her sister, whom she never got to grow with and know because Delisha's life was taken so violently. And I would love to give her a chance to speak about her feelings at this moment. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Greetings. I am a community member, yes. I am a daughter, yes. I too am a sister. I am Yvonne Malika Kosua, or daughter of Delbert or Africa, blood sister to Delisha Africa. I remember the day she was born. I remember the joy on my father's face. I remember our times playing in the yard together, holding hands. I remember us sharing dreams of what we would do and become, and eating fresh fruits from soil that we did and cultivated ourselves. I remember being ostracized and told that I had to go back home to Chicago because they would not allow us to just be simply happy children. I'm a daddy's girl, always have been. I remember fighting for 18 months to get the prison to treat my father and give him chemotherapy, give him a diagnosis for cancer, such that by the time that he was excavated, so to speak, on January 18th, 2020, the doctor asked us and literally shed tears, why would you wait so long to come in for treatment? My life changed inexplicably on August 8th, 1978. I did not understand how 9 men, women could be charged with the killing of a police officer holding one gun. I did not understand how hundreds of thousands of gallons of water could be pumped into a basement even after babies had been stomped and killed. I'm going to repeat that. Even after babies had been stomped and killed. And yet, every single gun that came out of that facility was blood dry, just dry. But you had hundreds of gallons of water. I sought to go into studying political science, which I did. I sought to go into studying science, which I did. I sought to go into studying religion, which I did because I needed understanding as to how such a travesty could happen on my American soil. I am also the daughter of Christina Chuckles May, Minister of Culture for the Illinois Black Panther Party. I'm born in Ontario, Canada, because she could not stay in our own place. We came to Philadelphia together. Because of the different factions of the Illinois Black Panther Party and the MOVE organization, my mother left and returned. I stayed with my father because, as I said, I'm a daddy's girl. So there might be some things that we want, which is, of course, the freedom of my uncle, Mumia Abu Jamal. But when I tell you, I want you to take a moment to imagine your daughter, your sister, being cooked and burned alive, screaming, trying to get out of a house, bawling up because there's nothing else that she can do. And then when others tried to escape, being shot back into that burning fuselage. I want you to think.
I want you to sit with that. I want you to sit with that. The fact that they literally bombed the home that you're in. And then once they bomb the home that you're in, and there's a fire raging, as you and children try to escape, the police are shooting you as you're coming out of the building. 10,000 rounds. 10,000 rounds of ammunition for 11 people. The United States would never. They would never. They did.
Think about that. Could you live through that for your own family member, your blood? I did. I cannot express properly the anger that I have, so I smile my way through it. But I want you to know that when you look at us, we are not animals. We are not savages. We started organic soil movement. We started fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and was ostracized for it. And before these 2 bouts of cancer, you best believe my locks were loud and proud down to my knees. But I'm a survivor. What I will no longer tolerate is being in the back, whether I'm raised to assimilate or not. So when my father died and I explained to this great city that I am coming for you, I meant it. I want that to sit with you. You have burned alive and shot back into a burning home 11 men, women, and children, and did nothing outside of our gratefulness to you, but apologize and put up a plaque. Is that enough if that were your mother, your daughter, your father, your sister? So, apology accepted, I guess, the same way that you would step on somebody's toe. It's domestic terrorism. It is criminal. I want the people held accountable. I want them arrested. I want my sister. I want her to rest.
I wanted to play that because we need to humanize. Look, I have to actually say this. We need to humanize us. Because I can give you the facts and figures, right? I can give you the clippings from the newspapers, which I will show you guys in a second. I can give you all that. But I had to play that because I wanted to humanize us, because who else is going to do it? This is the part of the capitalist system that we have to share in order to teach people this is oppression. Oh, you're black. You guys aren't oppressed. Look at what we did in the 1960s. We're not impressed, huh? Let me share this. I will share because I think this is absolutely important. Let me see. Is this it? No, it might be it. I think this is it. Okay, no, that's not it. That's not the one. That's the other article that I want to get to, but it's not it yet. There was another one. Yes, this is it. Is this it? No, it's close, but not the one I want to share. Sorry, guys. It's not showing up on here like I wanted to. This might be it. No. Hang on. Which one is it? It's ID PHP. Okay. Just making sure I have the right one. But this is the news clipping. Okay. That's not it. What the hell? It's the second one. Let me share this. Ah, got it. Okay. So this is one of the news clippings, and I want you guys to see. I'm going to read this. It says, Philadelphia chief said he wanted fire to burn. It says the police commissioner acknowledged today that he asked the fire officials to allow flames to rage unimpeded on the roof of a house that he knew was occupied by members of the radical group MOVE and their children. The commissioner, Gregor J. Sambor, said he wanted the fire, which erupted after the police dropped a bomb on the MOVE house of May 13 to destroy the steel-enforced bunker on the roof, so MOVE members would not have to protected perch from which to shoot. I wanted to get rid of the bunker, Mr. Sambor told a panel investigating the confrontation. I wanted to have tactical superiority without sacrificing lives. By the time the firefighters started combating the blaze more than 30 minutes after it started, the fire was out of control. According to fire department records, before they extinguished, 61 rows of homes was destroyed, leaving 250 people homeless. The bodies of 11 people, including at least 4 children, were recovered from the MOVE house. Appearing for a second day before a commission appointed by Mayor W. Wilson Good to investigate their confrontation, in which the police were trying to arrest several MOVE members, Mr. Sambor continued to dispute Mr. Good's testimony that he had not been informed about crucial details of the police assault plan. Other parts of Mr. Good's testimony were contradicted today when former Mayor William J. Green, Mr. Good's predecessor, denied that his administration had purposefully overlooked building and health code violations by MOVE members at their house on Osage Avenue, where the garbage was dumped in front of the yard, attracting pests. Policy to enforce the law. My policy was to enforce the law in all areas and with exception for no group, Mr. Green said in a notarized letter delivered to himself and the commission today. In addition, specifically as to MOVE, my policy was to intervene as soon as possible if MOVE action mandated force. Mr. Good, who took office in January 1984, testified on October 11th that he continued the Green administration's hands-off policy towards MOVE, which he described as a group of urban terrorists. In the hopes of avoiding confrontation, Mr. Good said that the city had allowed Mu to harass and assault its neighbors and to fortify its house with railroad ties, tree trunks, and 2 steel-enforced bunkers. The mayor said Wednesday that it was up to the commission to resolve contradictions in testimony. In his testimony today, Mr. Sambor disrupted the mayor's testimony that he had never been told that the police planned to drop a bomb on the house from a helicopter. Mr. Good testified that he approved using the bomb, but was not informed that it would be dropped from the air. Mr. Sambor said that he heard Leo A. Brooks, the city managing director at the time of the siege, tell the mayor in a telephone conversation that the bomb would be dropped from a helicopter. "Are you positive?" asked William Day Litton III, the panel's staff director. "Yes, sir," Mr. Sambor said. Mr. Brooks, who resigned shortly after the confrontation, testified Wednesday that he told Mr. Good a helicopter would be used. So this is one of the news clippings that the police chief, the Philadelphia police chief, actually wanted the fire to burn in order to harm adults and children in a house. Here it is for people to see back in the 80s. All because they were working against the system. And the system didn't like it. I want to go back to the press conference because there's some other things that he says that really set it up. And I want to make sure I get this point too. Yeah. So Mike Africa Jr. comes back. And then I want to share something too.
If anybody have any questions, we're open to answer. Well, I spoke to Chris Woods, who's the president of the Penn Museum. And he said that he was going to do all that he could to help find any remains of our family members. He told me that it was hard to find Alicia's remains because they were placed inside of an unmarked box that was also placed inside of another unmarked box that was tucked away in a corner of the museum. And he said that he believed that it was deliberately hidden. The reason we know what we know up to this point is because Janet Monge and Alan Mann were not secretive about what they were doing. They made videos that they posted on YouTube for their students and for other people in, I guess, the anthropology world, losing adventures in real bones, losing personhood. And they talked about these, they held them and they smelled them and they discussed them. And the same way that they carried on this way, they made documentation of what they were doing, as if they were doing nothing wrong. So the documents that we have, we got from their paper trails. We didn't conjure these ideas of what they have. Their paper trail and some of their students brought the information to us. And as far as John Africa and his remains, that was documented because discrepancies in the findings in the investigation from one anthropologist to another, who said, we're trying to sift through this, but there was a secret autopsy done before the medical examiners got involved, and they don't know who did it, but someone stole at least 4 heads. And Ronald Castile and Joan Wiener and these other people involved in a potential grand jury, they admitted to knowing and hearing about and reading about this information. And it was written about in the Legal Intelligencer. And so this information has just been their paper trail. It's like learning about 10,000 rounds of ammunition fired at MOVE. I had no idea that, but they said it. They also said that this was criminal behavior. And one of the ways that they could classify it as criminal behavior is if the medical examiner's office classified it as homicide. But the medical examiner's office decided to classify it as an accident. The cause of death of 11 people that were bombed, shot, and burned, and then decapitated was an accident.
This is another variable, because a lot of times they'll downplay what they do to us and say it was an accident. This wasn't meant to be done this way. And yet, it's just to cover their ass. It's sick. It's really sick.
It wasn't until 2022 that we got the medical examiner's office to correct the record and call it what it was and change it to death, to homicide. And they only did that. They only changed the cause of death for 2 people, John Africa and Frank Africa. And the reason is because as the nephew of John Africa, I can speak for our family. But because other families are unaware of this, their records have not been changed. But it's criminal behavior. And this is why Yvonne said accountability. Jenna Mange and Alan Mann needs to be arrested. They broke the law and they should be arrested.
So let me go here.
On Instagram, and if people want to send me an email for correspondence.
Let me see.
Now, we're going to try some good old-fashioned street action. If the legal aspect comes into play and we feel it'd be necessary, we will. But as of now, yeah, street action. Bible and all of these other things. I was kind of strange. She didn't put my name. She didn't put my name on the list. I've said a lot of things about her, and my name wasn't on the list. I was a little bit surprised about that. But yeah, there's a lot of people that names are on that list, and she's trying to say that she didn't do anything wrong. I don't even understand how a person could think that. I don't care what institution you're a part of. I don't understand how a person we know that people donate their organs. They consent to donating it, or you write on your license, on your driver's license, organ donor, right? You're willing to have your organs harvested for other people to use them for their health and their family's health and whatnot. We get all of that. The issue is not what she did as much as it was without consent. That's the issue. It's like a rapist. If it's consensual, there's no problem. But if it's forced, it's a rape, and it's a violation, and it is a crime. And what she did was a rape. It was a violation. It was a crime. And if she
And this was supposed to be anthropologists who did things like this. But this is not part and parcel of just this situation, because this is historic. There's historic precedence to this. Here's Dr. Joy DeGruy explaining this actually happening in the past. And I highly recommend people listen to this lecture of post-traumatic slave disorder. Dr. Joy DeGruy gives this in great detail. Let's take a listen.
Before we get into the Casual Killing Act, the Casual Killing Act was written because of the number of people who were killed while being corrected. Okay. And if any slave resists his master, owner, or other person by his or her order, correcting such slave, and shall happen to be killed in such correction, it shall not be counted felony, but the master, owner, and every other person so giving correction shall be acquitted of all punishment and accusation for the same, as if such accident had never happened. So that means that if you happen to be correcting someone and you beat them to death, you know how hard it is to beat someone to death? I mean, I thought about that. I said it happens so frequently that they created a law so that you wouldn't feel any what? No guilt, because you were simply correcting them. Wasn't your fault. So I went back to look at who was beating folks to death. I wanted to know. And it was white women. White women were beating black children to death. That's who was being beaten to death. But it wasn't her fault. She was just correcting them. You see, what we do is we rob ourselves of our own humanity when we refuse to look at this stuff. We rob ourselves of our humanity. And that's what people didn't know happened. Going forward, one more. Then you had the mental health folks. This is how we got in. We got in to try to fix it. In the early years of the 19th century, a physician named Samuel A. Cartwright argued that two particular forms of mental illness caused by nerve disorders were prevalent among slaves. One was drapetomania, which was diagnosable by a single symptom, the uncontrollable urge to escape from slavery. So now what we've done is we've now pathologized your desire to be free. Must be something wrong with them. Keep trying to free themselves. And again, it would be funny if it weren't in journals. You see, all of this is to remove the cognitive dissonance. Now we have, look at all the people joining in. You got Linnaeus, you got anthropology, you got physicians, all of them saying they deserve it. It's not us. We don't need to adjust anything. And if they just tried harder, how about you people just pull yourselves up from your bootstraps? What's the matter with you? The playing field has been leveled. Well, we're going to see if, in fact, it's been leveled. Or is that conjecture? Move forward. Now, I want you to look at this photo very closely, and I want you to see who's in it. More important than the man hanging, because you got to understand the lynchings that occurred in America happened after slavery, not during. Thousands of lynchings happened after slavery, because this is a reaction to white fear of what we would do once freed. But we didn't create a vigilante group to take out white people, but they did create a vigilante group to take us out now that we're free. See, that happened after.
Oh, baby. When we talk about, oh, well, this is not who we are when Luigi did what he did. This is not who we are. Those who do not study history are doomed to repeat it. It is exactly who we are. And when people go, oh, but you guys want reparations for slavery. Oh, it's not just for slavery. It's for the Reconstruction era. It's for what y'all did to us after slavery, too. Lynchings weren't a thing until after slavery. thousands and thousands of us of my ancestors were lynched. And I have to move the screen so that you guys can't see all the image because it's not proper for the tube. Let's continue.
After slavery, they were called the what? The Ku Klux Klan. They don't wear hoods anymore. They wear suits. But they're alive and well all over the world, even here. So look at who's in the picture. I want you to look at this little girl in particular. You can't see her closely, but she's actually grimacing, like smirking. Now, remember, let's go back to the puppy concept here. She would be loathed and torn up probably if this was a puppy, which means he's less than that because she's not disturbed. This little girl is not disturbed by this, but she should be, shouldn't she? People always ask me, they go, Joy, what was the impact on white people? There it is, right there. Can't feel any empathy for him. None, zero zip. There's a little one back here, even smaller. Because whatever she's been taught or told, socialized to believe, makes him no longer human. That's the greatest danger to white people, is that they can't feel it. And there's a reason why white people can't feel what we're talking about. My God, what would you then feel? It's tough. So I've got to believe, oh, it's all over now. It's not my fault. I don't benefit. It's not a big deal. Let's move on. It's not all of those things. But we don't say that to Jewish people. I dare you. But you have to understand, when you unearth this one, that's what we did to our children. Let's move forward.
So I want to also say that this is why it is so important for us to study history, so that we allow ourselves to feel bad about the history. Because you need to feel bad about the history so that it gives you an emotional response so that you do not repeat it.
This is a similar photo to the one that is used in Denzel's movie. Now, and again, most important, this is a man that's being burned. Also, I won't read the depiction, but there are newspaper accounts of this. It's written in a book called 100 Years of Lynching by Ginsburg. No pictures, just newspapers that say not only did they burn him, they decapitated him, cut him into pieces, and used parts of his body as things to put on mantles. So people would say, get me a tongue, would you, or a liver, a little crisp, so I could put it on the mantle. Now, again, I want you to look at the folks. I want you to look at who's here. We're not talking about the toothless, big gut, hooded wonder, are we? We're looking at plain old, common, dressed up folks. They're squeezing, please, I want my picture taken. Are you following me? This is somebody's cousin, uncle, somebody. And the ability to do that, dehumanize this man and rob them of their humanity all at the same time. All at the same time. That is the most dangerous, treacherous thing that could happen. What did Hitler do? He dehumanized human beings, put babies in ovens. Anything that robs us of our humanity is a danger to everyone. And that is what's going on with people of African descent all over the world, because not only did it get done here, but who did we tell the entire world we told these people don't deserve any value? Everyone wants to be American, not y'all. But when we go, I literally go to countries all over the world. America sets the standard, and thank God for what happened later. Let's move forward.
So when we talk about our bodies not belonging to us ourselves, Black bodies, is no wonder why what happened and the MOVE bombing and what happened subsequently afterwards happened because there was no wherewithal of us having value, and then, oh, these are the remains of the family members, so I want to give these remains back to the family members so that they can actually bury and say an actual goodbye to their loved ones. No, let's just take these because their bodies aren't worth as much, so we can use these as research objects for our school, for our museum. Because they're what? Worth less. Because by class, because we had to be listed as a lower class because of our identifying mark. This was our identifying mark as showing us as a lower class. And so that's why race and class are intertwined, because you need that identifying marker. This means lower class. So when we say class and race are intertwined, this is exactly what we mean. Our skin was an identifying mark of our class status within the United States. And so this is why, and some people who are Marxists are going to get pissed off, but it is what it is. This is why intersectionality is important, because you got to know how race and class are intertwined so that you can be able to combat it. Because even if we had a revolution, I'm going to tell you this right now, racism is still going to exist. It may not exist to the same degree as it does now, but it still will exist because you have to phase it out. That's why reparations is also still necessary. And so what happened to the MOVE bombing? What happened in Rosewood? What happened in Ocoee? What happened in Seneca Village? What happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma? What happened all over the United States? People need to realize what happened in Philadelphia in 1985. That was also class war. That wasn't just race war. That was class war. Race war is class war. Welcome to Revolutionary Blackout Network. I hope you guys are enjoying your time here. I hope this is as educational for you as it is beneficial for me and cathartic for me to actually be able to talk about. But this is why we talk about it from a Black left perspective. This is why RBN exists. Let me ask you this. How many independent media channels are actually talking about this subject right now? How many? Go ahead. Put it in the chat. So this is the point that we have to get to. That what happens to us as things regarding race is also a class thing. Because once Black people started trying to bring themselves up, that meant that the lower classes started to get uppity. And that division called racism is a tool used to keep the lowest class from the class that's not so low but not so high, which is the poor whites. It's used to keep those two divided so that lowest class doesn't go to the class that's slightly above it in order to unite so that they overthrow the capitalist class, the bourgeoisie, right? That's what it is. This is why they do not want any unity between us. But in order for unity to actually happen, those of you who are white and some of you who are non-Black also have to take some of these bigoted thoughts that you may have about us, and you have to toss that away, because you need to be able to unite with us. But we're not going to unite with you if we don't trust you, if we don't feel safe with you. This also goes to people of other identities. This also means that if you have some misogynistic ass views, you're going to have to throw that away to unite with half of the workers who are also women. This also means if you have some anti-queer views, you're going to have to throw those away to unite with the people who may be queer too. Because we need each other in order to change the system. Because if you do not have all the proletariat together, then you're not going to be able to have an actual revolution in order to be able to change the system so that you can actually survive. You need me and I need you, but I can't be with you if you're a threat to my survival. Intersectionality, folks, it actually matters. No matter what. And some of my comrades will debate against intersectionality. And guess what? Here's the thing. You need it in order to be able to have class analysis. I'm not that versed in Marx. I need to read, State and Revolution. I need to read these things, of course. But I also have experience as somebody who wears different marginalized hats within the capitalist system. Some hats that some people who are my comrades do not wear. And they only know this stuff from an academic perspective. I know it because I'm schooled of hard knocks. And this is why it's so important to also get to know people who you may not have that much association with. Because it's important to humanize people who you may not be around that much. If you don't know somebody that's undocumented, get to know them. If you don't know somebody that's Black, then get to know them. If you don't know somebody that's queer, get to know them. If you don't know somebody that's straight, white, and hetero, get to know them. Let's be real. Because the thing is, we got to get to know each other in order to unite as a class. This is why class analysis matters. But we also got to get rid of the bigotry that keeps us divided, because that bigotry is what the capitalist class, the corporate dictators, they depend on that in order for us to not unite. So then a move bombing will keep happening. So then a bombing of Gaza will still keep happening. So then some of us will be looking at others who are of another marginalized status, and we'll think that they're coming to just take our jobs. This is what poor white people thought about us. So this is why it's so important. This is why mutual aid is important, because it will put you in front of people that you probably would never associate with. It forces you to humanize your neighbors. Are you ready to do mutual aid? Are you ready to do not just the work on the outside, but the inner work in here and in here? That's what matters. Because revolution just doesn't happen on the outside. Revolution starts inside of you. I don't ever want to see another move bombing ever happen again. But we also have to study it so that we don't repeat it. I don't ever want to see Gaza, Jenin, West Bank ever happen again. I don't ever want to see another trail of tears. I don't ever want to see another Blair Mountain. Because guess what? When there's no marginalized people as in people of color or different identities, when it's just white people, guess what? The poor whites are now the marginalized. And I don't want to see anything happen to them either. So it behooves us, while making sure we're still safe, to try to unite. I hope that they're able to recover all the remains of their family members from the move bombing. That's deeply important. But in order to have a never again, you got to change the system. You just got to change it. Let's do it together. Go ahead and give a like. I'm going to put in the chat the links to the post-traumatic slave syndrome video, as well as the rest of the press conference from the survivors of the move bombing. So you guys have that as well. So you guys have that video. Also, let me put it in. And I hope I didn't get overly loud and passionate in this, but sometimes I can get a little loud. So my apologies. But also post-traumatic slave syndrome. This lecture will hit you, but at the same time, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you feel guilt or sadness, that's a good thing. That shows that you're human. Baby, if you have any guilt or sadness over it, maybe you have ancestors that own slaves and things like that. Okay, but what are you doing in order to change the system so that this doesn't get repeated? That's the point. And it's natural to feel these things. It's natural to feel this way, and that's okay. The point is to have that feeling so that you don't repeat the sins of the past. Okay. Oh, and let me share this too, because I want to make sure you guys have there's a website with the clips from the news articles as well. So you guys have that too. Put that in the chat. And I know this show went a little longer than typical, but I really wanted to marinate on this topic as well, because I think it's that important. Because we Black Americans go through a lot of us Black Americans go through more than what people realize. And then people think that everything ended in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act and all this stuff happened in the 60s. And I'm like, baby, it hasn't stopped. That's the issue. A lot of people think that it stopped, but it didn't. So it's important that we study history and move to reconcile and rectify what has happened. Okay. So I'm going to go to Rockfin first. And then we will move to general YouTube. All right. So let me see. I don't know if I read this last one. Hang on. Class and must live off income provided by government. PMC will start humanizing them. 75% of municipalities, residential apartments supposed to be mixed income, especially in cities that are more renters than homeowners. Okay. Animator says, holy shitballs, that is so many levels of wrong. What the actual F? Absolutely. Thank you for this. Hang on. Washington Post, how? Oh, see, Washington Post be tripping. They're trying to charge for, they're trying to paywall. I have a way around that. And by the way, I'm going to give you guys a tip because I love y'all. If you guys go to archive.ph, whatever news article that has a paywall, you can get around it by putting it in the archive, and then you guys can actually read the actual article in the archive. So you just got to go to archive.ph and then put the link, the URL of that link in there, and then save, and then it will bring up the article. And you guys will be able to read it for free without having to actually go through it. The only thing I say is that if it's, say, like an article from an independent journalist, right, and they're trying to make their coin, maybe like a Katie Lewis, which is one of my homies, or let's say it's a Margaret Kimberly or a Seymour Hersh or something like that. If you can afford to pay a little bit of coin, throw them a bone. You know what I'm saying? Because they're independent. But if it's like Washington Post, New York Times, Axios, or whatever, go around it. But yeah, that's just a pro tip for y'all. Make sure to do that. Okay, so this was saved 4 years ago. It says how the discovery of African burial ground in New York City changed the field of genetics. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, Roger, I'm going to give you the archived link to this so that it is not paywalled. So you don't have to worry about the paywalled version. So I'm going to put it in the Rockfin chat first, and then I'll put it in the YouTube chat. Because ain't nobody got money for all that. And I love y'all. And I appreciate y'all. All right. So there's the archived version of the Washington Post article. It says a forgotten cemetery, shattered barriers for scientists of color. Oh, I'm going to have to read that later. It says New Yorkers were shocked when the burial ground believed to be contained the remains more than 15,000 people of African descent was found beneath Lower Manhattan. A $275 million federal construction site in 1991 unveiled the cemetery dating back to the 17th and 18th centuries when Black people were still enslaved in the state. It is the largest and oldest collection of colonial era remains of free and enslaved Africans in the United States, according to the National Park Service. It took protests by activist scholars, politicians, and Black New Yorkers to halt construction on the governmental building and contract an African-American anthropologist to oversee the exhumation of the remains of 419 men, women, and children. Oh my gosh. What? Roger. Okay. All right. I'm going to have to look at that later. Oh, Lord. You just be finding stuff, don't you, man? You be finding stuff like a dog finds truffles. Jesus Christ, Roger. May need you to help me find some money. I said check DM for screenshot up here at the bottom of Washington Post link. What you showing me, Roger? Hang on. Oh. It says 1992, President George H. Bush signed a law officially stopping the project to excavate the graves of the African burial ground. 1993, African burial ground in the Commons Historic District are designated a New York City landmark. 1993, African burial ground is designated a National Historic Landmark. October 4th, 2003, the remains of 419 slaves from the African burial ground were buried on the location where they were discovered. In 2006, African burial ground designated a National Historic Monument. And October 1st, 2007, the memorial for the African burial ground site was completed and open for visitors. Wow. Holy crap. All right, let me continue this. Okay, thank you so much for that. Hempcar says bones are, I would say like juicy, meaning that you can tell that they are of a recently deceased individual. They have a lot of sort of sheen to them. At least this one does. And that is because, of course, there's still marrow in the marrow cavity, and it's sort of leaching basically out into the bone, and it gives it a kind of slick sort of appearance. If you smell, I bad, but it smells just like kind of greasy, like an older style grease. That's what she said. That's what, oh my God, that is so sick. That lady said that. That anthropologist, Hempcar is quoting her. Oh my God. That's the dead remains of, oh my gosh. And then the Democracy Now! Link. Thank you very much for that, Hempcar. Hempcar says the video of them stomping on Chucky Africa after he surrendered. Oh my God. They stole the children's burnt remains and used them for classes. Trust doctors who took Geronimo's remains. Oh. Thank you for the tip, Hempcar. It says if these police and authorities could get away with worse, they stole, moved children's bones and used them to study at Ivy League schools. Yeah, this is what they do, man. This is not that different from what was done to a lot of our ancestors that were lynched, and then they asked for pieces of them to put on their mantle. Hempcar says Satanist. The book Medical Apartheid says doctors still have books bound in human skin because it covered it too. Dark Archives is another book in it. Yes, and also here's another fact that a lot of people don't know. Some old pillows have the hair of enslaved Africans as stuffing for the cushions. Some chairs have the hair of our enslaved ancestors as stuffing for the cushions. Some of y'all don't know this. Look, I'm sorry. I'm going to get gruesome. Some of my ancestors, when they were infants, were used as bait for alligators. Oh, but we don't deserve reparations. That's why they call them alligator babies. So when it comes to not having a care for a people, where do you think Hitler got this idea from? Hitler got the idea from America. This is why people like me say that this country has always been fascist. It's just some of y'all are just now experiencing what we have been experiencing for 400 and 500 years. Some of y'all are just now going, oh my God, I can't believe how fascist this country is. And we're sitting here like James Franco in the meme going, first time, huh? And this is why I appreciate the people who watch this channel, because you guys are a wealth of information. And you guys give out so much great, vital information in order to bolster the arguments. And I appreciate you. And yes, Laura, hello to Hempcar, because Hempcar is another one that has a lot of info. It says kidnapping someone, locking them in your basement, and then making them do stuff for you. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Roger says, thank you for this tip. He says, reparations, we don't need it because not all of us need it because we got a lot of wealthy African descendants of slavery. We don't deserve it for what suggests we work willingly as if it were a job we applied for. No. Always the word to remember is owed. In the meantime, fighting for qualified immunity, abolishment, where we get to sue the government agency whose agents violated our rights, can bring wealth into our community. That's another point, because if we ended qualified immunity, then the police officer, the department, and all the officials, including the mayors and public officials, can be sued for what they did in the MOVE bombing. Like if Pennsylvania got rid of qualified immunity, they will be able to sue everybody who knew about it, who approved it, who participated in it. Thank you very much for this. Roger says that's exactly how Nader became wealthy. Bring Cynthia back on. She got good news for you. Okay, I'm gonna reach out to Cynthia. Thank you very much, Roger. Hemcar says stealing one's loved ones remains is a new level and low of disgusting. Absolutely. They still have thousands of native remains in museums they dug up and desecrated. Or is it tens of thousands? Look, I'm going to be real with you. Something tells me that the movie Poltergeist is actually real. Because the BS that we go through in this country, look, because this country is literally built on ancient Native American burial grounds. No wonder why we're screwed. Because we're desecrating the remains of African and Native American people. We're desecrating their remains day in and day out. And next thing you know, we keep going through shit because we're not honoring the dead. We dishonor them all the time. Not we, but this country does. And you don't think that Israel's not going to go through the same thing? Oh, baby. Let's continue. Oh my gosh. I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all are amazing. Roger says, I didn't find its live experience all over the news 30 years ago. Laura says, how did Nader become wealthy? Remember how they cut off the phalluses after lynching us? They used our babies as alligator bait. And when pregnant female was hung, they cut her open for fetus and fall on the ground. Then they'd stomp it. This is gruesome, guys, but we gotta put this out there for the record so that people know exactly what our history is. And Hempire, yes, this is exactly what they did to our ancestors. Also, the father of gynecology used to also operate without anesthesia on women in order to study the inside of a female. They did this to female slaves. This is why gynecologists know what they know about the female anatomy now, because they did it to our mothers, aunties, grandmothers. Anybody who had a uterus, they did this to them back in the day. Oh, here he goes. Roger actually said it. Slave women unwillingly experimented on without anesthesia used to advanced medicine gave birth to the OBGYN practice. Often they cut a part of them, permanently separating the anus and the vagina. Yep, this is what they did, man. I heard they castrate Aboriginal men and laugh as they ran around and would sexually assault their wives with them under the bed. If I recall, truth must be known. It is my college, UWSP, has Native remains under it. Roger says, love how me and Hempcar are competing on who can give out the most information. Overload to Jaybe. Keep hitting him up, Hemp. Watch him explode. I love you guys. I love you guys. And then Hempcar says, I'm just trying to share what I think is relevant and should be known. Hempcar, jokes, you know me by now. And then Hempcar says, School of Americas would catch babies on bayonets. same kind of attitude exists. Yeah, you guys are doing the Lord's work. I'll put it that way. Thank you very much to Hempcar and Roger and Laura. Shout out and love to you. Let me go to this. Yeah, Robert asked who blew the whistle. It was students, people who are in the classes, things like that. Thank you very much. Robert also says, I don't even want to know about how many indigenous bones are in these institutions and private homes. I mean, they even got Africans from Africa. They got Egyptian remains that are taking tours throughout the rest of this country in museums. They exhumed from pyramid burials. Thank you very much for the super sticker, James Starks. I hope to get to meet you one day, James Starks, from one James to another. Jacqueline, thank you very much for this super sticker as well. Jacqueline says, sounds like a lot of doctors didn't take their Hippocratic oath of do no harm too seriously. Yep, absolutely. Couch says, many revolutionaries left us teachings in books so we can learn from their mistakes. Yes. In fact, actually, if you read Assata Shakur's autobiography, she said one of the faults of the Black Panther Party was that they had some misogyny, right? And so this is why it's important also to make sure that you, like I said, some of us may have some, bigoted views in certain areas, and we have to work those away. We have to clean our brains and our hearts away from those things because they could cause the end of a movement. So this is why it's important. This is what Assata Shakur was talking about. This is one of her criticisms of the Black Panther Party in the past. Yes. Zoya says, Dr. CBS Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a Black Marxist professor. Yes, she's going to be on January 2nd. So yes, thank you very much for that. I don't know how true this is. Dr. Donnie says Cuba's been communist and Black people say it's totally racist. I'm hearing that I'm hearing that no country is perfect. By the way, they're socialist, but it's Communist Party that runs Cuba. But they're working through any anti-Blackness that was there, during colonial times. So no country is perfect though at getting rid of their anti-Blackness. But if they're working through getting rid of their anti-Blackness, then I applaud them on that. Yes, Rondo. Mumia has been locked up longer than a lot of people alive right now. Yes. And Mumia needs to be free. He should be free. I'm just going through the chat. Cobra Commander says, this is nationwide now. In fact, the U.S. military uses our bodies for weapons testing if you're an organ donor. This is another thing. And so, if you're a, living donor trying to donate something like a kidney, then that will go straight to the person. But I don't know if you donate your body to science. I don't know which sector of science it goes to. That's the only thing. Like I favor donating your body to science if it's going to help advance us in medical technology and things like that. But if it's going to be used for weapons testing and stuff like that, I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know if you can actually dictate how it's used. So, yeah. Black Plumber 333 says they only do this to us. They do this to us. I think they do this to Native Americans. I think that's the people that they typically do it to. But look, let's be real. Some people who are from the Central and South America, they are essentially indigenous Americans. They are also Native Americans too. So if they're doing it to them, you know, a lot of these people who are undocumented immigrants that are taken to the holding facilities for undocumented Americans, a lot of these women, they are involuntarily given hysterectomies. That happens too in this country, right? They're literally giving them hysterectomies. And these are women who are indigenous to the Americas, and they're doing that to them. It's sad. And, you know, John Whitney says, almost finished reading the book, Micah Africa Jr. about Move on a Move. Yeah. I'm trying to get Micah Africa Jr. on here. I would love to have him on to be able to have this conversation, because I think that's a worthy conversation of having, a deeply worthy conversation. Robert Nichols says someone knew it was a sadistic act. Yep, absolutely. It's just like when I said in the reading for Prejudicial, like, they knew slavery was wrong. You cannot come to me and say, well, it was a different time. They had thoughts that were different. No. They knew slavery was wrong back then. They knew it was wrong because they knew that if they were to free us, there would be an insurrection. Because why would we commit an insurrection in the 1700s if they freed us? Because if we felt that we were wronged, because every human has a sense of justice, then we would have carried out, restitution for that justice, that restitution for what happened to us. So they knew it was wrong, but they tried to justify it by making laws to say, well, we're not actually guilty. This is what they did. This is why they came up with the diagnosis of drapetomania. Oh, it's just a condition, They knew it was wrong. They tried to justify it. This is what they do. This is why the IOF says everybody's Hamas, because they're trying to say, well, everybody's a terrorist there. And even if they're a little child, they're going to grow up to be a terrorist. Because they use that to dehumanize. I need to get out of this. I need to go, because I'm going to be here for 6 hours if I keep talking. Let's do one more. Sam as I am says, now they got robot dogs and AI rifles. It'll be much neater when they turn them on us. Yep. And that's why we got to walk away from cop. We got to, stop cop cities and all that other. Roger, I said she may, but she's probably so busy, with the whole thing that she probably wasn't able to get in. I was hoping that she would, but she's a busy woman, right? Yup, Cooper, they will also do this. Oh, you guys are descendants of Ham, so therefore you're cursed. Which is complete and utter BS. Jacqueline says, what are your book reading plans for when you finish reading the current books? Oh, I'm glad you asked. So this is one book I'm going to read. One of the books I want. Ooh, hang on. Sorry. One of the books I want to get into is this book by Malika Jabali. It's Not You, It's Capitalism. Why it's time to break up and how to move on. So I'm trying to also get to more, Black women anti-capitalist authors after this. I want to get into this. I want to get also into. I gotta get the book. I think it's called Blading Sweetgrass. That's from an indigenous author as well. So I want to get into that. And I also, be honest with you, I want to read State and Revolution online. I want to get into that. I want to read that because I want to be able to say I officially read it, and I want to read that on on stream and discuss my thoughts, right? So those are the next three that I want to do. So Malika Jabali, who is she has his book, and I want to crack this open and get into this. And it has pictures and illustrations, which is right up my alley because I need pictures, I need illustrations, the way my brain works. But I want to get into this. And then I want to get into Bleeding Sweetgrass. I'm thinking about Soledad Brother by George Jackson. I'm thinking about that. I'm also trying to get George Jackson's son on as well. I want to get him on too, this hawk. I think it's Peter Jackson, I think his name is. So I want to try to see if I can get him on too, because that would be a great conversation too. But yeah, thank you very much for that question. All right, so let's do some house cleaning before we thank the patrons on our way out. So just to let you guys know, of course, we are continuing to raise money for Rome because Rome is still locked up. So if you guys have not already, you guys can actually donate to Rome. This will go to things like phone calls, and then oh yes, hang on, I'll get to you for a second for that comment, Roger, because I want to highlight that too. But here's the GoFundMe for Rome. If you guys would like to donate for Rome's legal support and aid, I cannot talk about why he's in there, but what I can say is he's done a lot for the community. I think that it's good for the community to return that, to him. And so this will go to his commissary, phone calls that, because they like to charge for phone calls and all that other BS. So, if you guys can send, throw him a couple bones, if 100 people each throw him $5, you know what I'm saying? So he can get, so he can be, get, the things he needs while he's locked up. So he's not suffering, under the huge weight of the carceral system. I'm gonna be honest with you, as somebody who's had family members that were locked up, the food in these jails and prisons are horrible. They're not even really actually edible. And so this is why a lot of people who get locked up, they end up coming out way skinnier than when they went in, is because the food is that horrible. And the only actual real food that they have are food at the commissary. Foods like the cups of noodles and the cookies and the chips and the crackers. And sometimes they'll have like frozen things like wings and stuff that they can put in the microwave and stuff like that. Because honestly, that's all that they can have. And then on top of that, toiletries like toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo, and all these different things. They also charge for that stuff now too. So this is why I constantly put this up to help out Rome, if you guys can as well, because I do not want him to have to, can constantly deal with all that while being locked up. So if you guys can help out Rome with that, that's deeply appreciated as well. Also, just to let you guys know, and the RBN Orlando chapter, we're trying to raise money for doing mutual aid out here in these streets, just like what Sabby is doing right now. So we're going to try to do it for, I would like to do it for late January or early February, but we're going to try to do another mutual aid action here in Orlando. So if you guys would like to donate, you guys can donate at $Orlando RBN. We deeply appreciate it for all that you guys do, for helping us to be able to do this as well. So thank you very much for that. And as I was alluding to earlier, yes, I am trying to get on the kidney transplant list. So if you guys would like to see if you are an eligible candidate for donating a kidney, it might not be for me. It could be for somebody else if we're not a match. You guys can also go to tgh.org/living kidney donor for them as well. So thank you so much to everybody who has tried so far. You know, you may not be a donor for me, but you could be a donor for somebody else. But if you guys would like to try to see if you are, please make sure to think about it deeply and thoroughly before you make that decision. Okay. Check with your heart, check with your mind first to see if you have the bandwidth for that. And if you do, then thank you. If you don't, then thank you anyway. All right. With that being said, let me check just to make sure I don't miss any tips on Rockfin or anything like there. Hempcar said Benjamin Franklin has bodies found in the basement of his house. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. Oh yes, and Roger said, get the book I got Savvy for her birthday regarding Asa Philip Randolph, or any book by A. Philip Randolph for that matter. Yeah, I do also want to read A. Philip Randolph as well. I want to be as well versed as possible. So yeah, I do also want to read that book too. So yes, that's also on my mental list for books that I want to get. And Savvy said it's a really good book, so I appreciate that. And by the way, to anybody watching, my birthday is on June 29th, so I'm just mess with you. Anyway, but with that being said, let me head on out, guys, because I am over 3 hours. I cannot believe I went over 3 hours. I was not trying to do that long, but it was necessary. Man, I've been having a long weekend. But like I always say, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. Study and share the history. Like, share it. Like, if you're eating dinner with your friends or your family, talk about it. Like, bring it up, right? I don't care if you have family members that has some bigoted views. Bring it up to them. Let them know of what was done to us, because at least you're planting the seed in their mind, right? I don't care if they're liberals. They could be shit libs. I don't care. Bring it up to them. I don't care if they're MAGA. Bring it up to them. I don't care. Put that seed in there, right? Knowledge is power. And so let people know about the actual history of our country, because you never know. You could have somebody that's like against critical race theory, and then you plant the seed in their head, and next thing you know, they're secretly Googling information about this just to know, like, what actually happened. What did they do to these people? And then you can start them on a road to decolonizing their minds, and you may not even know it yet. Just that's also a part of mutual aid, is sharing the information so that people can decolonize their minds and walk away from this system. Put the information out there. Please. You guys got all that buried treasure in your head. Release it. Share it, because it's going to stay a treasure in your mind. Might as well share it, because you're not going to lose it. Do that too. Or share our videos. Either way. All right. So thank you very much, everybody. Mwah. Forehead kisses to all of you. And watch something funny, because joy is revolutionary, because this was very heavy today. Watch something hilarious too. I love you guys for watching. You guys have yourself a good one. Shout out to all the patrons. Without you guys, we would not be able to do this work that we're doing here on the ground. You guys make this possible. We love you. In solidarity with all of you, solidarity with all the people around the world, solidarity with all the people here, especially to all our Black American brothers and sisters and siblings. We love you. And look, stay revolutionary, folks. Take care.